I have a portfolio worth £400,000. Hi, my name's Ishaan. I'm 21 years old and I absolutely love investing, making money, starting businesses. And in today's video, I thought I'd do something a bit different. I am going to be completely transparent with everybody on here and basically break down my net worth as a 21-year-old. I think it's so important to be transparent with finances, especially as young people navigating the world of investing, getting a job, how to actually negotiate a salary. So I thought, why not share my portfolio as a 21-year-old that has been completely self-made. I want to just preface this video by saying none of this was given to me. I started businesses when I was 16 years old, 15 years old, and basically just scaled them, and eventually got to the position where I am today. And I don't think this is the end. I want to continue growing my portfolio, but this is, I think, just a stepping stone to my goal, which is essentially becoming a millionaire by the time I'm 21. Well, not by the time I'm 21, by the end of 21, I guess. That's been my goal of mine. Sort of go through my portfolio and see exactly where my money is. So I've actually got my laptop behind me, so just ignore me if I continue to look around because that's kind of where my figures and everything is. So to begin with, I'm going to tell you exactly what's in my ISA. So an ISA is basically a tax efficient way of saving money, and basically it means you can invest in stocks and shares without paying any tax on the growth. So it's similar to the Roth IRA or the 401k in America or other equivalents in other countries. I forgot the names. But in my ISA, I have a total of £100,000. Now, this is basically invested into various individual stocks, into ETFs, into commodities like gold. But this I've been building since I was 18 years old. I was able to open up my ISA as soon as I turned 18, and I've been contributing as much as I can every single month. So I think the majority of the contributions have been over the past year because of my exponential increase in income. So I've just been trying to block away and maximize the amount of money that I can put into my ISA. All of the growth I make on that 100,000 is completely tax-free and it's sort of locked away. I don't want to take any money out of this. It's kind of just there. I'm constantly adding into it and I just want to see the value of that portfolio increase over time. We then have my bank accounts. So I actually, in relative to my entire portfolio, I don't keep the majority of my money in my bank accounts. So I live between the UAE and the UK, so I have a couple of banks here, a couple of banks there, and across all of my bank accounts, I have a total of £14,000 in them. I think this is just in case of an emergency, so I kind of look at this as an emergency fund, or if I need cash to pay rent, etc., it goes from there. But the good thing is I have mapped out my income for the next year or so. This is sort of increasing bit by bit, but you know, even if I was to make £15,000 in 1 month, I'd probably say 12,000 would go straight into investments and the remaining would go into cash, because my philosophy is that I want to invest aggressively whilst I'm young, and I just want to maximize, you know, lump sum investing so that in the future, let's say by the time I'm 30, I will thank my younger self for investing aggressively. But the thing is, I live below my means. I don't spend a lot of money. I don't buy a lot of things. Obviously, I like to, but I really have an addiction to investing, and I'm addicted to investing, I guess you can say that. The next part of my portfolio is physical gold. So I actually began investing in physical gold exactly 1 year ago, and I bought physical gold bars from, you know, PAMP or Valcambi Suisse or Emirates Gold. Because I live in Dubai, the labor cost of these gold bars is a lot lower, so every single month I used to buy a couple of grams of gold. So gold, I have about £10,000 worth of gold. It's about just a bit more than 100 grams. Again, this kind of, the price fluctuates every day because, you know, gold, it's a bit volatile right now. I think, you know, it's had its bull run over the past few months. Now the market is, you know, taking into consideration everything, and, you know, people are exiting their positions in gold because now people are moving their money to treasury bills, which are, you know, US government bonds. And there are a couple of reasons behind this, but, you know, regardless, I personally think gold is a long-term investment for myself. Technically, it's not an investment. Gold is a store of value, but I'm not liquidating this position at all. I'm just continuously adding to it every single month and, you know, just increasing my position in physical gold. Now, this gold is locked away in a bank vault, so I can't really touch it. I can obviously go to it, sell it, etc., but every time I buy gold, it goes straight into the vault because I don't want it to get stolen. But again, all the gold is in Dubai, so it probably won't be stolen. And finally, my last part of my personal portfolio is my property. So I actually bought a property in Dubai in February February 2026, which was just before the war. And the property price was £299,000, and I basically put down £88,000 as a deposit. So £88,000 I have in equity in the house, the rest is mortgage, so I guess in terms of my net worth it has to be assets minus liabilities, but the liability is my mortgage. So this property itself is tenanted, so I've got a tenant in there, they're paying my mortgage off effectively, and I'm earning a bit of cash flow as well. I personally live in a rented accommodation, so I rent my accommodation, and the property that I bought is an investment because it's generating me cash flow and it's paying my mortgage off and it's appreciating in value, hopefully. So yeah, I guess I can say £88,000 is locked away in this property, which is, I guess, at the moment not liquid. So I couldn't just sell the property tomorrow. I'd probably have to wait a couple of weeks or a month to get offers and then finally sell. But, you know, I'm happy kind of that it's tied away there. It gives me a tie to Dubai. I guess I can use it as a family home, etc. But there's a reason I'm not paying my mortgage off at the moment. I've got an interest rate of 4.49%, and obviously I'd rather have my money working for me in something that's liquid, something that's generating me a higher return, for example the stock market. And that's why I don't choose to overpay my mortgage, and I prefer to have the cash sitting in my stocks and shares portfolio. We then move on to the second side of my portfolio, which is my business. So I run a educational talent management agency. I guess you can call it like an acting agency. We represent influencers, but specifically within education. So think study talk, you know, GCSE, A levels, university kind of creators. We represent them, pair them with brands. And I would value that company right now in terms of conservative estimate, it would be £132,000. I'm not going to go into the specific details and how I get into it, but that's like so conservative in terms of the valuation of the company. That factors in my salary, that factors in everything. But if I'm actually going off a realistic valuation based on somebody would buy the company for, I would probably say it's worth about £500,000 to £800,000. So to put it in perspective, the revenue for this year was £550,000. Do what you want with that information, but in terms of the value that I think the company has is £500,000 to £800,000. But realistically for this video, if I wanted to, you know, exit right now, take all of the assets out of the company, it would be a base valuation of about £138,000. So in terms of my total portfolio value, in terms of the assets that I hold, we have a portfolio worth £327,000. Now, the reason I said £400,000 in the beginning of this video is because £80,000, give or take, is a buffer. So the company's assets, I can make that to £80,000, to be honest, because, you know, I haven't factored in my salary, what I pay myself, and things like that. So the assets that I hold are £400,000. The liabilities that I hold are obviously my mortgage. All in all, my portfolio, £400,000 minus my mortgage, but my mortgage is being paid off every single month. So technically it's a net worth of £200,000, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But in terms of the assets that I have, £400,000, and then the assets that I control is about £600,000. Let's assuming I control the whole property. But that's the thing about investing in property. You see, you can leverage money and you can borrow money from the bank at a cheap cost to essentially control an asset that's worth a lot of money. So that's kind of a breakdown of my portfolio. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have, it would mean a lot if you guys could subscribe, comment, and like down below. I'm trying to, you know, create content where I'm more transparent about my finances, what I do for a living, and my goal is just to inspire you. I really want young people today to build businesses, essentially move on from earning a salary to actually ownership, or using a salary to own things, whether it's stocks, you know, whether it's gold, whether it's property. I think that's one thing that's so important today that I think will be so important in the future is ownership. But anyway, have a great day, guys. I'll see you in my next video, and thank you so much if you have been watching until the end. Bye bye.